Where does the time go? Oh, right. Yeah, the reason why I haven't made one of these since forever is that summer kinda sucks for me. I've got pretty freaking terrible ventilation. If you think the computer fan that I can almost sort of barely edit out is bad, try adding 2 more fans to that equation. But with the temperature dropping, I'm finally able to get back into the swing of things. Back when the Season 2 finale was on, I was so hyped up about it that I had scripted out an episode to talk about it and even recorded some of it. Just was gonna skip to the fresh stuff and be topical. Pretending that I'm topical months later sounds completely stupid, so I'm just gonna go back and talk about the Slumber Party episode. I mentioned this one in passing in one of my earlier videos, but I think that's gonna happen a lot because I tend to ramble about the entire series whenever I start talking about this shit. This is one of the episodes where 2 of the ponies end up actually being real friends instead of just being part of the same group. And what a fucking pair to attack with that process. You can't get much more fucking different than Applejack and Rarity. AJ is good at heart, hard-working, and bland as rice with a southern accent. Rarity, on the other hand, is pretty much the most horrible person you'll ever enjoy the company of. She's still good at her core and dedicated to her work, but the phrasing ain't the only thing separating those 2 statements. Rarity has a complicated set of morals and a double-edged sword of greed and generosity all swirled together. She's shallow, vain, extremely materialistic, and more than a little manipulative. But she never lets it get in the way of being good to her friends. Yes, in her world, her friends come first, and she never asks anything from them, and she'd give them anything on a whim. Everything else is fair game. When it comes time for a nasty remark to be said, chances are it's coming out of her mouth. She gets away with being an asshole on a regular basis. And if you haven't guessed, this makes her one of my favorite characters. How can you not love a classy, well-meaning jerk? So the episode opens up with the Pegasi setting up for a torrential shitstorm of safety hazard levels because they suck at their jobs. Now clearly they can do this whenever they please, since they have control of the weather. That's kind of what they do. But they decide to start everything up before the ground team is done prepping the park to not bludgeon people to death with falling branches. Branches that are also likely to be blown through windows if they're left lying on the ground if there's any substantial wind to the storm. You know, like the fact that they need to take down the branches in the first place kinda implies. But fuck it, whatever. Now, down in said park, there are Rarity and Applejack among the nobodies. I cannot for the life of me imagine how Rarity got roped into this crap. It's not her cup of tea, and clearly she has no concept of what she's supposed to be doing. She couldn't have possibly volunteered, and whoever asked her to come is a complete moron. But Applejack decides to take this pathetic management decision personally and proceed to belittle Rarity for doing poorly at her job that she has no right to be doing in the first place. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to spend the whole episode talking down on Applejack, but this scene, she's just so goddamn unreasonable. Yeah, Rarity is kind of whiny as she wants to get out of the rain, but how the absolute fuck is go crawl through the mud a reasonable solution to the problem? Preferring not to get wet is not fucking solved by crawling through mud. Mud is in fact wet, and a good deal more horrible than we really give it credit for. Applejack cruises about ankle deep. In real life, that should be a shoe-sucking slop pit. But I'll tell you what the most interesting part about this scene is. Though no ages are ever mentioned, I would put the cast at whatever the pony equivalent of early to mid-20s would be. They're adults, out on their own. By far, the most mature members of this group are Applejack and Rarity, who each own and operate a successful business of their own. These extremely mature business professionals just took time out of their day to go back and forth with does not, does so, like fucking preschoolers. Say whatever you like, but I find watching these 2 descend into spiteful immaturity to be one of the most hilarious things this show has ever presented, and it runs all episode long. They managed to put aside their differences long enough to stick together and make sure neither of them dies. Twilight calls them inside her tree to get out of the rain, and thus it begins. Again, I cannot stress this enough. These characters are probably in their 20s, slumber party is completely beneath them. But Twilight, even if her childhood isn't as shitty as I once imagined it, had no goddamn friends growing up. The Season 2 finale gives her an extended backstory with her brother and her babysitter, but she still has no actual friends of her own age. Hell, the people closest to her were only there because they had to be. She didn't create those relationships. They existed by default, and would continue to exist with no effort on her part. So even if it's less depressing than her being an only child shut-in, it still keeps her with the stunted social skills we all know and love. May she never be trusted in public. As smart as she is, she acts like a toddler when excited, which also was all episode long. AJ and Rarity agreed to a truce to not fuck up Twilight's good time, and instantly decide that they are still super pissed at each other, so the terms of the truce are just that Twilight still has fun. They've got free reign to still completely despise each other and be bitches all night. I don't have jokes to crack about the makeovers. They look the same at the end, and Twilight even magically removes their curlers. It happened because it was on the list. That's a pattern that's about to emerge. You may want to take notes. Then the ghost stories happen, which Rarity and Applejack use as a quick excuse to get a few extra jabs in at each other. And then Twilight tells a story that actually scares the piss out of them. And before the dust even settles on that, she rushes over, flips the lights back on, and checks it off the list. I'd also like to note, the lights went off with a strike of lightning as if the power went out. And there's a click when Twilight turns the lights back on. Twilight lives in a damn tree. It makes sense that the power didn't really go out because there isn't power. But the more I think about this, the less sense it makes. Why would Twilight fake a power outage if that's not even a thing in Equestria? For the sake of pacing, I'm gonna let this one go, but let the record show this bothers the crap out of me. The s'mores scene gets no time dedicated to it, so why should I bother? But I will note that they only make a single s'more before checking it off. Twilight is following that book to the letter. But then, Truth or Dare starts. Up till this point, Twilight has come off as completely oblivious to the fight, and maybe she was. But it's here that it's impossible to ignore. Oh, she doesn't change her behavior much, but she knows. She so knows. But she's got no tools in her social skill set to deal with this, so she retreats to the book and... fuck it, the book says Truth or Dare, let's fucking play Truth or Dare! The book says Pillow Fight too, that's the perfect idea to drive this shit to the breaking point. And after that train wreck that plays out like an actual fight scene, Twilight calls it. Let's sleep this shit off like a bad cold. But of course, it gets worse. They have to share a bed. Just look at it. You can feel the fanfics. Ugh. The logical cliche of the blanket tug of war gets an interesting spin when Rarity displays some fine OCD skills by insisting that she can only sleep with the bed made. Twilight, meanwhile, is pretending to be asleep while mentally preparing her next letter with the moral she learned from the party. That sometimes your friends fucking hate each other, and you're just gonna have to make sure to keep the group big enough that they don't have to make eye contact. She's working out schedules that'll keep at least one other friend with them at all times. Or maybe just not invite Applejack to anything anymore, because personally I just can't bring myself to care. But she gets sick of that and yells at them for not having fun at the party. Because this is on the checklist. She does not give a single shit about her friends and their stupid little fight. They frickin' messed up the list. Way to go. So, with a little bit of fate tempting and plot necessity, a tree gets struck by lightning and is about to fall on the roof of the neighbors. Whoever the hell they happen to be. AJ calls back to this being why they were pulling down branches and gives Rarity a hard time about it. But really, that's not fair because half the damn tree is fallen. You're really gonna save that with some pruning? So Applejack lassos the damn thing and pulls it inside like a damn moron. And everyone else descends into madness at their inability to deal with the problem. I've heard around some people think that it's against Twilight's character for her to go all weird here, but I love it. Her defense mechanism when she doesn't know what to do is she looks at a book. Well, the book doesn't know, it's about something else. She's completely lost, the book's not helping. It's just making her more confused. Rarity, on the other hand, has no idea how to fix things and decides that cleaning up a bookshelf is a proper use of her time. AJ then delivers a speech that's slightly touching that teaches Rarity the value of not being such a goddamn OCD pussy. It's pretty moving and whatnot. Well put. She plays the voice of reason despite being fucking unreasonable all day, and it's clear she's struggling with it. Maybe Applejack isn't so bland after all. Maybe I can respect her. Nah, still don't got it in me to care. Rarity magically explodes the damn tree into topiary art, and that's that. Problem solved. She manages to get covered in mud despite it being the top of a tree and barely touching the damn thing. But whatever, use it to call back to the mud masks, that's fine. There's some scenes of everyone having fun, but screw it. The episode's over. I'll just talk about the moral now. Their moral is that, well, that Applejack and Rarity can be friends even though they technically have no goddamn reason to even talk to each other. Let me take that a step further. How the fuck did Rarity end up part of this group? Her and Fluttershy works, I'll give you that one. But what about Dash? Pinky? Everything that got on her nerves about Applejack can go double for them. But that's kinda the point. Rarity didn't pick her friends. For as socially focused as she is, she kinda started the show as much of a shut-in as Twilight did. Maybe a little less because it was established that she hangs with Fluttershy, but So, I'd say, moral today can be best summed up in the immortal words of Billy from the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Sometimes, our friends are people we really don't like. You can pick your friends, and you can pick your nose. But you can't pick your friend's nose. You have to let them be who they are, and pick it for themselves. Truer words have never been spoken. Friends are friends. If you ever stop to think about why you're friends with the assholes you surround yourself with, then you're pretty shitty at the whole process.